The following podcast is recorded and produced by Emerge, a media creators co-op.
Year-old on the planet that doesn't want an iPhone 5, right? Who wants to wait 42 seconds to watch something download instead of 2 seconds? Nobody, right? You don't have to be a genius through an Apple computer. You just have to, every year, make the product a bit lighter, a bit more elegant, make it a better radio, make it a better battery. And then I sat with, one of the 10 richest guys in the world for dinner 5 nights ago, and we had dinner for 4 hours, and he did half the talking, I did half the talking, and he's much more successful than I am. I understand that, by the way. As I said, sometimes you got to do other things than just have opinions to make money, right? There's a lot of execution involved in the rest, but I have opinions. So he said to me, Apple computer, can these guys hold their prices? Aren't they going to follow the model of the PC industry? Aren't their prices going to taper down? Their 40% margins are going to become 30 and 35 and 20. And it's another example of people just know enough to hurt themselves, right? If you go to France, and this is the benefit of seeing enough, you go to France, you see Bernardo Arnault runs a company, LVMH. They're selling handbags for $4,000, $3,000, $2,500 each. This is a device that women view as fashion, and it's 10,000 years old. And for 10,000 years, no, the prices are not lower after 10,000 years. If you actually care about this thing, how many women have $300 pair of shoes? How many have two? How many have more than two? Right? The truth of the matter is when the technology goes from being a utilitarian vocational brick that I put under my desk, no one gives a crap about that, to being a piece of clothing, right? A fashion statement, extension of your personality, a piece of jewelry. And iPhones, iPads, they're somewhere between clothing and jewelry and accessory. At that point, they can hold that price point forever. They can basically sell you another $500 device every 2 years forever, because everybody's got five, and the first billion people have got that, and the rest of the world's getting elevated up. Year-old on the planet.
Welcome, Defion Productions Podcast. I'm your host, the hardest working nobody in Bitcoin. This is episode 102. That was a video of Michael Saylor from 2012 talking about Apple and talking about, ironically enough, Bernard Arnault, who, if you don't know his story, during the COVID pandemic, when all the stimulus money went out, he skyrocketed up the world's richest man list because he sells what? Luxury items. And people like to buy with free money. They don't like to save. They like to buy luxury items. He owns Louis Vuitton. He owns Burberry, Hilfiger, a bunch of other. He has like a portfolio of like 47 or 48, maybe 50 plus luxury brand companies, and people were spending money and buying $4,000 handbags or whatever nonsense that they were buying, and his net worth skyrocketed as a result. But Mike was talking about Apple, and Michael Saylor famously made a bet on Apple back in the day. Talked about how the iPhone was going to change the world, kind of how he talks about Bitcoin changing the world. And I thought it would be a good clip to start the podcast out today to kind of reset things as we are here sitting in this kind of lull period right before where we all kind of anticipate that things are going to go either insanely bullish or, maybe the market topped out and we'll be done, but who knows? And while we're in that period, I thought it was cool to go back and look at, Michael Saylor's been smart long before he came across Bitcoin. And what's also a tidbit piece of information is this was 2012. The very next year, 2013, was when Michael Saylor actually tweeted that Bitcoin was a scam. And then obviously in 2020, 7 years later, he went all in with his company in Bitcoin. So, everybody starts very skeptical. Even the biggest Bitcoin bulls start out as skeptics. We'll jump into the charts here, kind of look and see what the markets are doing as we're filming here at 3:06 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Thursday, September 4th. We got Bitcoin sitting at 110,066.74. Total market cap slightly under 2.2 trillion. Ethereum, 4,281. Going down the top 10, you kind of see that everything's, slightly red in the last hour, last day. Bitcoin down about 1.74% the last 24 hours. Ethereum down 4.2%. Solana down 3%. The total market cap of crypto is 3.76 trillion, down about 3.22% in the last 24 hours. And the fear and greed index, close to the middle, around neutral at 47. Bitcoin did have a little bit of a run up yesterday. It did get around 112, got rejected off 112. When I woke up this morning, it was around 109.5, I think. So we're up a couple $100 since when I woke up this morning. The markets are, we're range bound. We're still, 12, 13% off the all-time high for Bitcoin. So nothing crazy. I mean, we've had bull market drawdowns in the past of, 35% or 50% in the last bull run of the 2021 season. We had a 50% drop. So this 12, 13% is really not a lot in compared to the grand scheme of things. But, if you go across Bitcoin Twitter, it's there's a lot of doom and gloom, which is kind of crazy. Real good tweet that I saw this morning from British Hodl, which kind of reset my thinking. I kind of agree with this thought process here. I've come to terms with this, and it's been one of my biggest challenges, not just in Bitcoin. And it says maybe the people that don't get it aren't supposed to. And I have to remind myself often of that as I sit here as a Bitcoin gospel speaker. Talking the gospel and the great word of Bitcoin to people, trying to orange pill them, trying to tell them this is the greatest technology ever created. It's going to change money. It's going to change the world. Not everybody's going to get that. Not everybody wants to accept that. Not everybody even wants that. And, you got to figure out who you decide to spend your time with having those conversations and who just, maybe they're not supposed to get it. And you just kind of move on from that. So I'm in the camp of British Hodl here with maybe there's people that just aren't supposed to get it. Another good follow on X, Rajat Soni. I believe he's from Toronto, which is only about an hour and a half from here. He does a lot of work with BTC Sessions and 88 Sats, which are also fellow Canadians. They podcast separately, and then they do a podcast together. Being that we're here in Niagara Falls, U.S., and we're hop, skip, and a jump from Canada. We're very close and adjacent to our Canadian brothers. Rajat tweeted something that I thought was pretty good that I wanted to share on the podcast today. Something I hate about Bitcoin. I feel like I have knowledge I'm not entitled to. The world is built on a scam, and most people have no idea. The fiat scam is designed to keep the working class working forever so the elite class gets to enjoy their lives. Almost everything in the world is built to keep the scam going. If too many people stop believing in fiat, the entire financial system and everything built on top of it falls apart. Sometimes I feel crazy thinking about how things will just get worse in fiat terms because almost nobody around me sees it. You think groceries, rent, and transportation are expensive today? Everything is about to become a lot more unaffordable, and the majority of the population doesn't see what's coming. The sad part is most people would just think that I'm being negative or a conspiracy theorist for pointing out the flaws of the system they rely on. Owning Bitcoin is the only way to protect yourself from the scam. Bitcoin woke me up and changed my perspective on the world. Most people don't see the scam, and the ones who do see it use it to enrich themselves. Sometimes I wish I weren't aware of the scam, blissfully ignorant. Rajat's got a cool story. He worked in finance, had a really good job, and found Bitcoin and was morally and ethically conflicted once he found Bitcoin and decided to quit finance and just stack Bitcoin. And he drove Uber for like 2 years while he stacked up Bitcoin and got himself in a position where he was financially free. Obviously doing it during a bear market helps, and stacking sats cheaper, and Bitcoin's a price appreciation compared to everything else. And now he has a very successful podcast that he runs and a social media platform. If I click on his profile, he's got 127.5 thousand followers. So he's doing well. A lot of people listen to him. It's pretty pretty cool. You see guys like this. He follows me as well. As you see, only follows 1,832 people, but he follows me. I just thought I'd throw that out there. It's pretty cool to see guys like Rajat, who worked in finance, feel like they're ethically and morally conflicted and make the tough decision to quit cushy jobs in the fiat system and dedicate and go all in on Bitcoin. I mean, it's admirable. I'm going to share this, and then there's a reason why I'm sharing it. And I know it's not Bitcoin related specifically, but you're going to see why I'm going to share this after you see this 2-minute and 25-second clip and why it has relevance in the things that we talk about here in Bitcoin.
Good morning, citizens of Ireland. I'm here today outside the office of the Taoiseach and Taoiseach, where we are over 200 days into the formation of current government. In these times, this government has cost us our peace of mind, our security, our hope for the future, and the general well-being of Irish citizens nationwide has decreased dramatically, whereby we have seen the homelessness of Irish children risen to levels unprecedented, proving this government's refusal to abide by and respect our proclamation, and where all children of Ireland are to be cherished. Instead, our children abandoned. This incompetent failure of future generations has been accompanied with an intense influx of mass migration into an already severed system. Our tourism has sharply declined, while danger on our streets has risen. Ireland, as a master of martial combat, a solution-driven man, you will hear me speak on a problem but once, then it is action towards solution. I urge all our citizens to be of the same. Today, Ireland, I am outside these gates of these appointed officials, but as your head of state, you empower me to enter these buildings on your behalf. A president face-to-face with government officials with only one priority: to ensure that the country our founding fathers gave their life for is strictly adhered to on behalf of its citizens. Ireland, under my tenure, the will of the people will be heard. Ireland, under my tenure, we will return important articles of our Constitution prior, and thus again aligning with Padraig Pearse's proclamation, in that we declare the right of the people of Ireland to the ownership of Ireland and to the unfettered control of Irish destinies, to be sovereign and indefeasible Irish men and Irish women, in the name of God and of the dead generations from which she receives her old tradition of nationhood. Ireland, through us, summons her children to her flag and strikes for her freedom. In the name of the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit. Amen.
So, I to be completely transparent, I like Conor McGregor as a fighter, as an entertainer. I like to watch his fights. I like to, see him in the octagon, or if he's boxing in the ring against some fighter that's probably going to beat him. I like Conor McGregor. However, there's this trend that's happening in politics where a lot of our elected leaders are not necessarily representative of the people. I mean, you got a leader in Ukraine who was a actor / comedian. You got a president here in the United States who was a actor, I guess you could say, or entertainer on The Apprentice for quite some time. We have Congress. We have people in Congress that were former professional athletes. A lot of instances of people that were famous prior to going into Congress. And now you have Conor McGregor, who's looking to represent another country as another president of somebody who comes from, at least presently, maybe not his origins, but he's represents an elite class. And we just keep putting these elitists into power, and less regular, normal, everyday people are really being represented. And I saw that video, and honestly, I didn't even know that. I mean, McGregor hasn't fought in I don't know how long. It's been a couple of years since his last fight. I mean, I feel like he's basically retired without actually making it official. He made so much damn money on that Mayweather fight, and the subsequent couple fights that he did fight for the UFC. And he's got that that brand that he just sold. I believe he had that beer or whiskey or something that he had a stake in that he sold for a ton of money. He's worth $200 million. So to get back in the ring and fight for a couple million is probably beneath him at this point. But like this trend of people that are representing us in our elected, allegedly by the people positions is just getting kind of laughable to me. I mean, I don't know how you feel, Rich. The politics is more your game than me. I saw this video and I wanted to share it because I know like to get your take on it. I mean, what do you, how many of these situations are we going to have now? And in multiple countries, not just the United States, it's happening all over the world now, where these people get like you have to be already famous to get a position to. It's like we're anointing kings. I feel like.
Yeah, I mean, one of the problems is that people don't work their way up through the system like they used to, and whatever it is, you started as a you're county legislator, and then you became a state senator, and then you became governor, and then you became a state, a federal senator or whatever, that type of thing. We don't seem to have that as much. I mean, there certainly are a great portion of that, but even your local communities, it's like you always end up with like, like I remember like Jack Kemp. Remember when Jack Kemp was our senator? Yeah. And
former Bills quarterback.
Was he senator or congressman? He was a congressman. And his claim to fame in Western New York was that he was a former quarterback of the Buffalo Bills. And then when he was the VP, who was he the VP for? He ran as the VP for somebody.
In the 80s, right?
It was in the 80s. It wasn't for whoever it was. And my wife and I still joke about like every time when he was running, I think it was Dole. I think he was Dole's VP candidate.
The pen in the hand guy?
Yeah. And it was like, oh, you're the quarterback and you're the quarterback. It was all these football references and everybody was like, oh, and people supported him because he was good at playing football. And then, and I'm not saying I'm not saying when you're done playing football you can't go off another career, but it's definitely this issue that I part of the problem is that we elected a celebrity. We started with Reagan. Reagan was well known as an actor.
Very true.
It started with Reagan in a sense.
Who ironically was, I think he was he's my favorite president of my lifetime. But you're right.
I like Reagan a lot because I don't like some of the decisions he made. I do feel like he got too old in the second term in particular. Sometimes I worry about who was running that second term. I worry about I feel like he was getting old. And then
was Iran-Contra the first term or the second?
Iran-Contra was he surrounded himself with Iran-Contra was
second term or first term?
It came to light in the second.
Okay,
term. I don't know exactly when it started. I'm sure he knew a lot about it. I think a lot of people took the fall because they could. He didn't know. But regardless, back to the point.
Yeah.
Reagan was an old school guy, had fought for the country. He rose. I mean, he was an interesting dude because you got to remember too. Before he was governor of California, he was also president of the Actors Union. So he had this diverse
Democrat to start too.
Yeah, he was a guy whose positions evolved, and that's what I mean. There's things about Reagan I don't like, because then later on became a union buster. So regardless, but the point is he started as a celebrity. We knew who he was. And there's a lot of celebrity now. We got astronauts and athletes and former football players and basketball players.
I just heard yesterday former New York Yankee Mark Teixeira is running for a seat in Texas.
I don't have a problem with that because with a lot of these guys doing it, because most of them are at least, they're not running for president. They're running for congressmen. They're starting in their local community. They're not running for, when they come out running for New York, state senator, they're running to be one of 50, 100 and 100 of them.
Yes.
That's when I get nervous because they're getting too powerful too quickly.
That's where they
your way up through
but
the
that's
system.
Where they start. And the problem is, the problem that I see is, especially when you get down the line of the taxation is theft, where I plant my flag. I completely believe taxation is theft because, according to our Constitution, no taxation without representation. And I strongly believe that in our government right now, we are not properly represented. There are so many people that are in positions of power that are there because they were famous before they got those positions.
Right.
So they're winning almost by default. So they're representing us by default. There aren't really a lot of like, to be completely fair, and you can argue, and I don't like her politics, but I'm gonna throw it out there. A bartender from the Bronx, AOC, is way more representative of the people than Mark Teixeira or Jack Kemp or Donald Trump.
And
to
whether
be fair,
you like her positions or not, she's actually
irrelevant.
qualified for
It's
her
irrelevant.
position.
It's irrelevant.
There's
Yeah.
people that are qualified, but we don't elect the whether you agree with her positions or not. She has a background. She's qualified to do that job. And there are too many people that aren't qualified. We even in our local community, there are people that will get elected to this person because, well, like he ran the baseball association or something, or he was a coach.
Niagara Falls is a perfect example.
Yeah.
Our current mayor is a former judge.
Right.
Like all these
He
people
has name recognition.
And in the one before him, Deister, what did he do? He's doctors. I remember my doctor was his brother. So like the name recognition.
Yeah, there's
from
a
him.
lot of name recognition.
Elia, I think she's
her family,
Stevenson, right?
Yeah, her family she wasn't necessarily well known, but again, it was the family name.
Yeah.
I mean, and let's be honest, we have a guy who was our governor in New York State, who was kicked out in disgrace, but is still running for the mayor of New York City now. And again, I'm not going to talk about the other candidates, but specifically Andrew Cuomo was kicked out of the job. And somehow the Democratic National Committee, New York State Committee, still wants him involved. They're not, and this is where you talk about not representing the will of the people. The guy that should be the recognized nominee won the nomination fair and square, but the Democratic Party will not endorse him, even though he was elected. He won the primary. If you win the primary, you should be the Democratic committee.
Such a conflicted example.
Instead they're going with Andrew, and Andrew's only famous because his dad was a good guy.
I have to disagree on a couple points there. I am out of my league here because you're way more qualified to talk about this than I am. So you're probably right and I'm probably wrong. But my view on that situation particularly, number one, I didn't like Andrew Cuomo as our governor. That's number one. Number two, if I would have known how bad Hochul would have been, I would have liked Andrew Cuomo more. That's number one.
Well, you're not wrong on that. And I don't disagree with you on that.
Yeah. So there's that. I believe that Cuomo was taken out not necessarily because the accusations were 100% true. I mean, where there's smoke, there's fire. So maybe, he's Italian and us Italians are touchy-feely. So it's not hard to make things up like that on an Italian. If I'm being fair, we're just like that. So it's easy. And I know his defense sounded weird to non-Italians, but as an Italian American who's been in many family parties, like that's how we are. Like that's how we interact.
This dude's been in politics his whole life, literally his whole life. Before he was elected anything, like he grew up in a political household. He has to know. He's dated lots of famous people.
He has.
Like he's been in the public eye his entire life.
I understand, but it's not hard to make up stories when you want to get somebody out. So I think, again, I can be wrong. I think it was a hit job that got him out, and they wanted Hochul to be the next one in.
But do you believe for a second they don't want him in because he is someone that is run by the Democratic status quo in New York State? They're deathly afraid of the regular guy getting elected, regardless of his policies. That Democratic committee in that part of New York State, they want to maintain control, and they would rather lose with Andrew than win with a guy they can control. And that's what the problem is with our party system. That's the same reason why when they realized Biden couldn't run, they had to put in the VP without a primary because that was someone they can control. They were deathly afraid that the nominee would have been someone they can't control.
They messed up. They messed up by going after Adams. It's Adams that's in there right now, right? Yeah. Because again, I don't. Adams' politics, not really a fan of. I liked how he stepped up in regards to the immigration stuff, and because he did that, and because he spoke against the establishment with that, they took him out as well. And it's ironic. this guy's got all of a sudden, Coleman doesn't do what he's supposed to do, and then there's these allegations that come out. Adams was the best until he decided to go against it, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, he did this thing 5 years. It's like, well, why did you allow him to get into power if these things had happened before he was even elected that you had to know about? Because you're going to tell me you didn't vet this guy? Like, that's what you do.
Well, and we certainly know that it's again. I mean, there is that aspect of these parties, and it's not. And I don't mean like the regular voting Democrat. I don't mean the regular voting Republican. I'm talking about those behind the scenes people that really they just want to maintain control of that party because the money they get, so they look for these celebrities that they can get in there or whoever it is that they can control. And I mean, but back to your real point, the point really is that we're not getting choices. We're getting celebrities. It's like we're watching what's one of these celebrity shows like The Voice. Like my wife watches The Voice, and she's not really watching for the singers. She's watching to see what Adam what's his face says to Blake Shelton. Like we're watching. We're enamored with celebrities in this country. England, they're enamored with their soccer celebrities. Ireland's probably most famous guy is Conor McGregor, right?
Yeah.
So they're enamored with him, even though he's hilarious outside of the ring and he's a terrible actor. But like he's just. But again, he's rich. I don't know enough about him. Is he charming to the common man because he had to come up through the ranks with nothing? I don't know.
Here's the thing, to get back to the whole reason that we podcast here about Bitcoin, the money's broken. So the amount of money that it costs somebody to run kind of takes out the people that you're going to be representing.
Right.
Like an everyday normal guy that gets up with his lunch pail and goes to work can't just decide one day that run for mayor of New York. Or can't decide to run for like a Senate seat in his state, because he doesn't have the money to do so, or the political capital, or the last name, or whatever the case may be. So our system is so entirely broken because of the money, which Bitcoin fixes, right? Change the money, change the world. That you keep seeing these it's like a caricature of like. I feel like life is a meme now when it comes to politics. Like it gets more and more ridiculous every single day, where you have these people that have no business representing the people, right? I mean, Conor McGregor is not a representative of all Irish people. Like, he's a good story, came from nothing, was on welfare, could fight really well, worked his way up the UFC, got himself a big payday, made lots of money, has name recognition, is, great on social media. But to go from that to like very important decision making when it comes to like a country, its policies, its people, like, he's not qualified. Like, come on, let's.
No, I'm not.
Let's
I'm
not say
certainly
he's
not. I'm not saying he's qualified, but I do feel like at least someone like what I do like is when they do come out. And did he officially? Was that an official candidate announcement? Is that what that was?
I guess
he's just trying to like.
No, I guess he's trying to run. Like that's
Sometimes I wonder if some of these guys like not that one. I don't. I mean, I knew he did that, but I didn't. And I saw that. I didn't see the whole video until you showed it. I knew he kind of did that. There were some things about, I do like a lot of what he said. Like about, there's parallels to what he said is very similar to the parallels of what we're seeing in our own country right now. So, I mean, it's going to I'm saying it wrong, but it's going to resonate with a lot of people because they're so fed up. And what you're saying, God, I'm just going to start stealing your lines. Like, people are so frustrated with the system as it is that they're looking for what can I do so I can have some control as much as I'm ever going to have in this world. And that's what Bitcoin offers people. I mean, or any type of whatever. And that's, I don't know if you were going to talk about the job numbers. We talked about that off the air.
Yeah.
But this is where, we've got a generation of people that now, adults and even, coming into adulthood, that are looking at the economy and home ownership and raising children and college and everything with a completely different view than you and I did and our parents did.
I think more and more people are waking up to the fact, and we say this often, that something's not right. And most people walking around are not economists. They don't study markets every single day. They don't know financial terms. They don't look at the jobs report. They don't look at Bitcoin's price or NVIDIA's price or stock market prices. They're just everyday normal hardworking Americans that get up, go earn some money, and try to figure out how to pay the bills and take care of their responsibilities. And at the end of the week or the end of the month, they look and they're like, man, like something is not right. This wasn't how it always was. This wasn't like this 5 years ago, 10 years ago, or 20 years ago.
About why we won't fix all our social medias platforms, why the government won't step in and regulate any of them. There was a thing for a couple of minutes there where we were going to get rid of TikTok, let's say. But in general, we say we're going to do things to the. Why don't we want to do this? Because it is distraction and entertainment. And if we stopped being distracted by like all the stuff that we get to watch on TikTok, X, Instagram, YouTube, then maybe we would like pay attention to what's going on in the country, we rise up. It's all about back to the Roman times, what they called bread and circuses. Feed the people, keep them occupied, entertain them with whatever, and then they won't retaliate. They won't rise up against you. And I feel like why regulate an industry which causes the distraction so we don't really pay attention? Most of the people in this country aren't paying attention to what's going on with our money, our finances, our government. I feel like that's why they don't want to regulate that industry.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't disagree with a lot of what you said. I would just add that, the social media has been co-opted by the tech industry because there's so many points of contact and so much information that they can get off of us from our social media profiles to just enrich their bottom lines. So if anything, they're just going to make social media bigger, and they'll never properly regulate it, because they want people to disclose the things that they disclose to get more information on them, to figure out what new product and what new way, like they can see, like there's a reason why there's trending on you can see what's trending on X. And I don't think it's just, it's a cool little gadget on X. It's like, no, there's people paying attention to what's trending because people are making money off what's trending. That's where the dollars go in real time. You know what I mean? All right, let's jump into another little story here since we're halfway through the podcast. The SEC chair, Paul S. Atkins, has unveiled the spring 2025 agenda, prioritizing clearer crypto rules, deregulation, and modernized market oversight. I think that's supposed to say 2026. I don't know why it says 2025. But you can kind of see that it's on the agenda here for them to deregulate and make things clear. I like clearer. I don't know how I feel about deregulation because I don't trust the government, and I don't know what that is going to mean. If that's going to be good for, it usually means it's not going to be good for people. It's going to be good for, organizations and businesses. So, who knows? Another article here. Every person who gets Bitcoin has the same story. I thought I understood it. Then I went deeper. Now I can't stop thinking about it. Everyone else seems broken. You're not going crazy. You're just going sane in an insane world. And that kind of drives home what we were just kind of talking about with that Conor McGregor thing that I saw. Like every day I wake up and I'm like, the world is just going more and more insane. And it's like, when do we reach the breaking point where people are just going to say enough is enough? And I don't think that ever happens. I just don't think people are awake enough to understand something's wrong and to unite to actually make a change. I don't have enough faith in humanity for that to happen. And that's why I think this Bitcoin revolution is as important as it is, because it's going to take the people like us, the Bitcoiners that are going to be, advocating for this change of changing the money to make things better. It's never going to be best. It's never going to be completely optimal. There's the thing is, there's never going to be a world where there's only rich people. There's never going to be a world where there's not poor people. Like, it'll always exist. And the people that want that to change don't understand how the world works. Like, that's called socialism. There's a reason. There's a reason why people flee socialism to go to capitalism, and you never see it the other way around. Do you ever see people flee capitalism to go, I got to go find a socialist country and a communist country, and I want to go live there? Like, I can't be in this free capitalist country. I want to go be in a free, like, mass migration into like socialism. You never see that. It's always people going from the socialism and those countries that are being oppressed and that are performing terribly to coming to places like the United States, which are doing better, right? You don't see it the other way around. So socialism obviously doesn't work. Anybody that tries to advocate the other side of that is just an absolute moron, or they're highly incentivized because they're making money off of it in some sort of way or fashion to pretend that it's good. So it's never going to be that way.
People that believe in socialism actually believe they have faith that the people that would run the socialist vision of things would be better than the people that were in power now, whether it's Russia, America, whatever country you want to pick. And I'm like, why do you think that those people, and I've had this debate with kids and friends over the years, and I'm like, so do you think blankety blank is socialist? And they're like, I go, look at China. China's not really communist anymore. They are and they aren't. They are a capitalistic society. They're making money. They're not following the model that was set up in the 50s. They're not. They are not following that model. They have for-profit industry. Whether, and I'm not going to talk about the what's great about China or bad about China, but they're not a communist socialist country anymore. Politically, they're kind of still communist, but economically, they are a capitalistic society.
You want to go real conspiracy theory when you brought up China and Russia. I was listening to a podcast, or not a podcast, a Spaces, a couple of days ago, and somebody on the Spaces said that it's their belief that China, Russia, North Korea, none of those countries are actually our enemies, but we have to have in our psyche,
for sure,
we have to have in our psyche as American citizens a belief that we have enemies.
Right.
Because if we have enemies, then our government has to spend the money to protect us, in quotation marks, protect us. But like, when's the last time we've actually had a battle with either of any of those?
Right.
The only people that have actually attacked us are in the Middle East.
Right. And
allegedly.
Yeah, and that's the funny thing about that. Like, if you remember, I'm a movie guy too, not just a political guy. And I remember in the movies when Russia collapsed, we really struggled, and not we, because I don't work in Hollywood, but people who worked in Hollywood, storytellers, really struggled with who were the bad guys. Like, they didn't know what to make the bad guys anymore. So we made a lot of people in the Middle East the bad guys. And a lot of the James Bond movies, that when Russia started to collapse, or it had to be some guy that was like former, KGB agent, which turns out to be the guy's president of Russia now.
Yeah, Putin,
so,
yeah, I know.
But I mean, the bad guys, we struggle. You are totally right. There's all kinds of writings and theories about we have to have a bad guy. And, that makes them, that is, and let's go think about it. Go back to why do we, getting off the gold standard so we could spend all this money to make bombs and planes and have wars. Our philosophy, and I've learned this talking to you and lots of other people, if you think about it, the system works because there's bad guys. So we need to have this big fancy schmancy defense, and we have to have a gold dome or, Star Wars and all this other crazy stuff that's been thrown at us over the years because of the big bad guy out there. And, I think the next big war that we see is probably going to be an internal war versus a international war. I'm not saying there will never be a war in the Middle East or something like that we aren't part of, but I don't see us ever fighting a war in our shores unless it's an internal war. It's a civil war type thing.
You want to know something crazy? I'm Googling this right now just to make sure.
Well, you're looking at that.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So I'm going to ask, but don't look at the screen because I don't want you to guess.
Right.
So gold is trading currently at around 3,500 an ounce, right around the all-time high, or a little bit over the all-time high. Do you want to know what the United States government, with the gold that they have, price it on their balance sheet today per ounce?
I have no idea.
If you had to guess, what would you guess the price would be? It's sitting, it's 3,500 an ounce. What would the U.S. government be pricing gold at on its balance sheet right now?
Well, I'm assuming they priced it way higher. They overinflated the value to make them feel like.
What's your guess?
Double that.
$42.22.
So they went up by.
No, $42.22. Gold is $3,500.
Why are they undervaluing it?
The United States government values the gold on its balance sheet at a price of $42.22, a value set by law in 1973 and not tied to market fluctuations. While the U.S. government owns a large quantity of gold, its book value remains low due to this fixed price, but the actual market value is significantly higher.
How do you value how much you have? So their value of what we have as a national whatever is a country is based on that price, or is it based on what the going price is?
Think of this. The U.S. Treasury's official holdings, valued at the statutory price of 42.2 cents, values the gold we have now at $11 billion. Okay? We're basically 100x away from where it should be.
Right.
So it should be 100 times more than that $11 billion. Okay?
Right.
Here's the problem, and this is the debate. If we were to revalue gold, now we value gold at $42.22 an ounce. We set that price. You know who else has to abide by that price?
Well, everybody else.
The rest of the world.
Yeah.
So if we were to revalue gold 100 times higher, who's been stacking gold like crazy people the last decade plus?
Well, I don't know exactly.
China,
Okay.
Russia for sure. When we sanctioned Russia, they went all in on gold. And allegedly some cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin as well.
Well, the gold's one of those funny things that drives me crazy because it's again, like he was talking about, Saylor was talking about, was it Saylor was talking about the purses and stuff?
Yeah.
So it's the same thing. Gold, we use gold for some things, but in general, we mostly use silver and platinum for most of the technical things that we need stuff for. So gold ends up being mostly because it's shiny, right? I mean, we don't use it for a lot of other things. So everybody jokes about, every once in a while you hear that there's an asteroid that's coming by the Earth and it's full of gold, and if we just went and got that satellite, which is ridiculous we could do that, but we're going to go get this satellite, this asteroid, bring it here, and everybody would be a billionaire. And I'm like, no, it would just tank the value of gold, and gold would be useless. Gold would cease to have value, because who would want it if everybody could have it? Right?
So there's a couple.
If everybody had something, then who would care anymore?
Oh, I agree. I agree. There's a couple of conversations here though that I think are important. Number one, your average person walking around the street, if you took 10, 2 or 3, probably 20 or 30%, maybe on the low end, being conservative, would think we're still on a gold standard. They would think gold still backs the dollar. Because I had conversations with people that when I told them that, they were like, "Oh, I didn't know that." That's number one. Number two, unless you're talking to somebody that's piped in to markets, but I think if you took 10 random people on the street, okay, you're a pretty smart guy and you produce a podcast that's a financial podcast. And when I asked you the price of gold, you had no clue, and you never would have said $40 an ounce.
No, I don't even think I knew what the real price of gold was in the market.
But when I tell you 3,500,
what I certainly did not know, and again, I just had this conversation with my mechanic the other day. We don't teach anything in school that's like important. I mean, we teach some important things, but there are so many things we should be teaching high schoolers, and we're not. And one of the things should be this stuff. Everything that we're doing, this should be like what they're learning in economics in their senior year or whatever year you take economics in high school. Like, they should understand, but we don't. But it's almost like we don't. The educational system is just as corrupt as the rest of our government. So the educational system does not want an educated populace. They don't. The country does not want most of this. The government does not want most of this country to be at a high level of education because it's bad news for them.
Put my screen up real quick. Look at this. First Bitcoin course is now being taught at the University of Tampa this semester.
That's great.
And the Bitcoin Standard is the book that they're going to be using. So at least some universities are starting to smarten up and realize that, some of this stuff needs to be taught. But to the point that you just said, like,
I wonder if there's an online version of that course you and I could take just to see what crap they're teaching.
Yeah.
You recognize the books?
The Bitcoin Standard. Yeah. It's the Stephanie Amos. It's a great book. Yeah,
they're good books.
That's the good one. That's the one you want to start with.
That was going to be because
that's the book you'd want to start with.
The textbooks are shit.
No,
so I was wondering what
that's the one you'd want to use.
Oh, good. That's good to hear.
You just talked about people not understanding money. Let's play a video real quick. Jack Mahler's, who I love to show videos of and use to to use examples. Let's take a look at this minute 39-second clip of Jack Mahler's really quick.
Is money and its intended purpose in a marketplace? Money is a market good, just like anything else, just like a cheeseburger or a car or a plane. But the difference is I acquire a cheeseburger to consume it and eat it. I acquire a car to consume it and move me on the road. I acquire a plane to consume it and fly me somewhere. I acquire money uniquely not to consume it. It's the unique market good that you actually acquire to save and later exchange for the things you want. So money is the technology us humans invented to solve for barter. Can you imagine if we had 10,000 different ways to exchange our time, our energy, our effort, our labor? If I walked into Chipotle and said, hey, I have the Subway coin, and they say, oh, nope, we take the Chipotle one. Money wants to be one. It wants to be the one market good that allows us to price, save, and exchange all of our efforts in society. If I were to work all day and night and exchange that effort for money and someone else could print it, then that's not very fair. It's easy money. It's easy to create more of it. So the money needs to be hard and scarce. It needs to be divisible. It needs to be transferable and portable. It needs to be easy to store. It needs to be easy to verify. The difference between fake money and real money. And so a Bitcoin maximalist is someone that believes Bitcoin is the best market good at achieving the properties that money is supposed to accomplish within the marketplace. Bitcoin is the best at being money, and it is destined to be the one money.
Good video, I like that.
Yeah, very well done. And
I like that
when
video a lot.
when I saw that the first time, the first thing that came to my mind, and you know, seeing videos like that, I consume a lot of that kind of content. But I thought to myself, we've been told, right? And we've said this. I've said this to my kids before, and I know it's been said to me. We say money doesn't grow on trees, right? You've heard that saying before. We've said that, right? Money doesn't grow on trees.
Yeah.
You want to know the real truth to that?
It kind of does.
It fucking does grow on trees. You know what the problem is?
It just
Me
grows
and
in our
you don't
imagination.
own the tree.
Yeah, you just don't
Me
own
and
the
you
tree.
don't own the tree.
Right.
We don't have access to the
That's
tree.
hilarious. Yeah, that's
Money
it's
really
don't
does.
Ever say that to your kids ever again.
Money really does grow on
just
trees.
say,
And
just say money's fake.
when I saw that part, like it hit me when he's like, you can work all day for money, knowing that somebody else is literally printing it.
Right.
While you're working hard, you're giving up your time. Time is so precious, right? When you talk about wealth, when you talk about like building financial freedom and all that stuff, all that really is like buying back your time. You're accumulating enough wealth to be able to do what you want with your time. It's so invigorating. It's so disrespectful and disingenuous to know, like, think about somebody that's out there right now working an 18-hour day, or a 15 or 16-hour day, working a double, right? They're giving up 16 hours of their time to be away from their family, to work in a plant, to do whatever job they're doing, the respectable earned living that they're making. And while they're doing that in that 16 hours, literally there's money printers that are just printing money, inflating the supply, making the money that they're actually giving up their time to earn worth less when they get that check in 2 weeks.
And the thing I'm going to say is that is a very specific American experience. Like a lot of the other countries in this world don't have this obsession with work, and we kind of teach it to kids at a really young age. We kind of like, it's in all our media. It's in our homes. It's all about you go, you work. It's like it's definitely a thing that this country, we work significantly more hours each year compared to every other country in the world. And it's not a question, even like, looking at this is the way we are. It's the American dream. You work hard for that American dream. But I almost feel like that we've been almost told that you should be doing all these extra things, and you should, the boss is the guy and he's taking care of you and all that stuff. And I feel like that is in a uniquely, maybe Canada has it too. I don't know enough about the Canadian culture, but I feel like as an Americans, this idea of working 18-hour days because it's what you should do is much more prevalent in our psyche than it is a lot of other places. Other countries tend to have a lot more downtime, mandatory, just view their time as an asset. At this point in my life, being retired and owning a small business, yes, I need to make enough money to keep the business open, but my time is more important now than the whatever I make per session.
Good points. Very good points.
I have that luxury.
Yeah. Yeah. Check out this tweet. Kind of drives home what we were just talking about. Good evening. The U.S. added $500 billion of federal debt in the last 30 days. Have a great night.
Yep.
That's
surprise.
That's printing money. They're printing away. If people really took the again, this is the part of like opening up the podcast and talking about like what British Hoddle said. Like sometimes having this information, this knowledge, and like wanting to share it with people. It's like not everybody wants the information and wants to take it in, but like as a Bitcoin maxi that really understands why Bitcoin was created, and I'm not just the number go up guy. I'm like really want to change the money, and I really want to change things, and I want to change the world. It's so disheartening for me to look around and see that people just do not have any clue what really is happening around them. And that guy that's out there working that hard shift today, whether it be a hard 8 hours, 12 hours, whatever the case may be, taking time away from their family, busting up their body, mental health, physical health, all that stuff that they're expending to do that one day's labor, and not realizing, because they don't understand the system, that the money you're making today that they're going to pay you in 2 weeks is going to be worth less when they hand it to you. Right? The people that work those jobs where they get paid like by the day, they don't make a lot of money usually in those positions, but that's the best type of money to get, because the money today is worth more the second that you get it, because every second it's worth less and less.
Well, and that's the thing. I think if you asked the population and you asked them why is inflation high, or why have salaries not kept up with housing prices, just a simple question like that, or whatever it would be, I feel like everybody would come back with an answer, but only maybe 10% of the population would say it's because we print too much money. Like I feel most people would say it's because of illegal immigration or government waste or whatever. And government waste is part of but they would never. If you'd have to dive in more if they said government waste. Well, what do you mean by that? Like I don't think you would. It would take a while to get to the point that it's because we print too much money. Like I think it would take a long time to really get most of the population understand, because, and then thinking about like, well, remember during COVID when you got a check, where do you think that money came from?
People would revolt.
The government didn't have a warehouse.
If we taught a class on like fractional reserve banking and we taught a class on like quantitative easing, if you couldn't leave high school without like taking those classes, and a majority of the population were told at an early age those things happened, people would be, I'm not giving you 40 hours of my time for you to inflate my money away. You either change this shit or nobody's showing up to work. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's super extreme, but there's a reason why these things are not taught. There's a reason why you have to go out and find these types of things. And there's a reason why economists exist that are smart people in money that literally sit on the side to debate you when you bring these things up and try to tell you that that's good for the economy, that there's reasons why that exists and it has its place, and they defend it like these pieces of shit assholes that literally are educated in finance and economics and are quote unquote economists that defend that shit. If
you're some guy running a hedge fund or a speculator type organization and you're making all this money, your staff, if your staff understood the way it works, they wouldn't work for you. And for that guy or gal to have that company and have that level of wealth, they need to have a populace. They need to have workers that don't understand that they're never going to be him. They think that they can work their way up, and but then they just go, oh, I can't believe that guy didn't get the raise and all that stuff, or I didn't get a bonus or whatever that is. And it really comes down to, again, that we don't really want, as a country, our structures, our institutions do not want people to understand. Like, it's funny, this was just posted 3-4 days ago. I saw this, that if you look at the French Revolution, when they went after the bourgeoisie or whatever it is, right? When they took them all down. If you look at the gap in wealth between the average Frenchman in 1722 or 1822, whenever, I don't know when the French Revolution was, I forget what the article said, but it was like between what the average French person was making versus what the level of the bourgeoisie was making compared to now. Like, it's like this.
It's not even close.
Like, it's not even close. Like, not that it was this close, but the exaggeration of wealth between what the French people rebelled against and chopped everybody's heads off and all that stuff compared to the wealth, what our wealth is now in this country. It's like, it's amazing that we haven't.
And you have political parties trying to tell you that, like, it's the politics that have to change. And if you don't change the money, you can't change the wealth inequality. The reason why the wealth inequality exists is because our money is not real. We do not have a hard asset backing our money. We're able to print to infinity. And as long as we allow the government to do this, as bad as it is today, newsflash, it's only going to get worse. Right. It's not going the other direction. The wealth inequality is going to get bigger, and it doesn't matter if you got MAGA running things on the right or you got progressives running things on the left. It's irrelevant. The money's broken. We don't have a hard asset backing our dollar, and this is what you get. Two more things before we head on out of here. Pubby, good follow on X. He tweeted this from November 22nd, 2022, revisiting the November 2022 Bitcoin bear market. Did you hodl? Did you also stack? Did you embrace the pain and survive? Well done. And then he tweeted on November 22nd, 2022, shout out from the Bitcoin class of 2017 to the class of 2021. Mad respect if you're still here grinding it out. You are true Bitcoin believers, and it's showing the bottom of that bear market at 15,751.46, down 40 grand. Down 72%. I was one of those people that held from the 65, 68,000 all the way down to that bottom of 15K. And here we are sitting today at, where are we at right now in real time? 109,862. This is what a hard asset does. This is the volatility of new technology. The volatility is vitality, man. This is real money, not your shit that's in your pocket, the fiat that, like we've been talking about for the last 25, 30 minutes, gets printed away, printed to infinity. The last thing that I'm going to leave you with before we sign off today on the podcast, this is a quote from Satoshi from January 3rd, 2009, when that first transaction was sent to Hal Finney. It might make sense just to get some, in case it catches on. If enough people think the same way, that becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. The price of Bitcoin when this was sent was zero. It had no value. And shortly after this, Hal Finney mapped out a potential where Bitcoin could reach $10 million one day. Imagine that, $10 million when something has no value. And here we are sitting at 100,000 a token, 16 years later. Might make a little bit of sense to get some after all the stuff that we talked about today and been talking about on this podcast. This was episode 102. I hope you liked our new intro that we had at the beginning of the podcast. My socials are going at the bottom of the screen. Please follow me on X. If you're watching on X, jump over to the YouTube, give us a subscribe on YouTube, give us a follow, reposts. Shout out to the Bitcoin Army. If anybody on X is watching this live from the Bitcoin Army, they're doing a lot of cool spaces every single day of the week. I do my best to try to jump in and listen. As always, as we do every single time, never more important than this time in history, don't trust, verify. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week.